Hi. Okay, so I have introduced the work of Byron Katie in 4 different classrooms to teenagers ranging in age from about 13 to 16, and I've found this way to be an effective, engaging, exciting way to introduce it to them where they're actually actively engaged. So I've introduced it to about 120 kids, and the materials I've used and that you will need if you want to try and replicate this are 2 pieces of poster board and Velcro and index cards. And what I used was on 1 piece of poster board I painted the picture of a human figure, and then on another piece of poster board I painted the world. And you will also need 12 underlying thoughts that have to do with a person, or personal thoughts, I'm calling them, and then 12 underlying thoughts that are specifically geared towards prejudice. So what I did was I painted this poster and I picked 12 underlying thoughts that affect a person, and I asked for 12 volunteers from the class. And so 12 kids raised their hand, and I gave them each a thought. So each one a particular thought. And then they came up one at a time, read their thought, and stuck it on the person. So one kid would come up and read their thought, "Life sucks," and stick it on. And then, "I can't do it," "There's something wrong with me," "I'm a failure," "I need more money," "I know what's best," "There's not enough time," "He rejected me," "Something terrible is going to happen," "She doesn't care," "I need to know what to do," and "There's no point." So they came up one at a time and put these thoughts on the person. Then I asked them, what is this person, I hold this poster up in front of everybody, and I ask, what is this person's life like? And they often raise their hand and say, depressing, horrible, suicidal. And I say, yeah, this is, and then I begin to introduce, this is the effect of a thought, if we believe it. And then I ask, who has had a thought, one of these thoughts? And most kids raise their hand, and I also raise my hand. And then what I do is I switch to the world. At this point, kids are very engaged. And I ask for 12 more volunteers, and sometimes more than 12 hands go up. And I give them each a thought, and they come up and they do the same thing. And they come up one at a time and read their thought and then stick it on the world. So there's no rhyme or reason to these thoughts. They're just thoughts that I've heard and that seem like underlying belief systems that are universal to every human, or that most of us have probably heard at one time or another. So these ones are: immigrants should go back home, poor people are less respectable, men are pigs, women are too emotional, rich people are snobs, Jews are greedy, Latinos are lazy, Muslims are terrorists, gay people are unnatural, white people are evil or are devils, black people are violent, and the world isn't safe. So they come up one at a time and read their thoughts and stick them on the world. And in the 4 classes I've done this in, the kids have been very diverse, come from diverse backgrounds, racially, economically, well, obviously they've been of both genders, culturally, they've all been different. And then, and then I ask what the world is like. And oftentimes people are like stressed out, depressed, horrible, lots of wars, that comes up. So the next step is I say, right, and we can believe these thoughts, or we can begin to question these thoughts. And at that point, I kind of take both posters and I say, and then I introduce the work, and I say, I take, for example, a thought like life sucks, I take it off and then I introduce the work. And I say, so we can either believe these thoughts or we can question them. And we can question them using inquiry. And then I write the work of Byron Katie up on the board, and then I write question number 1, is it true? And I've taken a thought from one of these posters, like life sucks, and I say, so life sucks, is it true? And I answer, and I'm like, yeah, of course it's true, life sucks, we all know that. And then I say, okay, the question number 2 is, can I absolutely know it's true? And I write that on the board. And kids at this point, like, the rooms have been silent when I'm writing these questions. And I'm like, so can I absolutely know it's true that life sucks? And I sit with it, and I'm like, well, you know, no, I can't absolutely know. And my no comes from, and then I give where my no comes from. So in this case, like, my no comes from, you know, I have an extremely privileged life. Life is really beautiful. There's so much good in it. And then I give examples, like, of where I live, the friendships I have, all different kinds of examples of how life doesn't suck. And then I write, so how do I react when I think this thought? So question number 3 goes on the board. How do I react when I think this thought? And then I answer it. I'm like, so if I think the thought life sucks, I react by getting angry and depressed and wanting to, I can get suicidal if I believe it strongly enough. And I kind of go into my answer, and I often reference what they said. I was like, you guys answer the question, how do I react when you talked about it being depressing and horrible and suicidal. So then I write question number 4, which is, who would I be without that thought? So who would I be without the thought life sucks? And I sit with it, and I was like, you know, if I didn't believe that thought, I would be just open to life and excited and curious about what's the next day going to bring, what's the next moment going to bring. And then I show them how to turn it around. So life sucks becomes life doesn't suck. And then I have to find 3 genuine ways life doesn't suck. And I do that in front of the whole class. So kids, they're paying attention usually, and then I take these 2 posters and I say, so now it's your turn. You guys choose, I want to volunteer to choose one of the thoughts from one of these 2 posters, and I'll facilitate you. And pick a thought that you've believed. And so the kid will raise their hand, and then I take them through the work. And then I'll ask for another volunteer, and another kid will raise his or her hand, and I'll take them through the work, I'll facilitate them. And so it's actually led to amazing classroom discussions and amazing opportunities to just open and explore, you know, is this thought true? So that's how I've introduced it to them. And then at the end I say, so what happens when we begin to question our thoughts? And then I take both the person or the world, and I say, so what happens when we begin to question these thoughts? And I take each thought off. So I've taken each thought off, and I ask them, so what's the world like now? And oftentimes people are like, well, lighter. The kids are like, lighter, a lot more free, a lot more open-minded. So that's how I've introduced the work to kids, and it's been very effective. And if you have any interest in introducing the work to kids in this way or in other ways, and you want support or a curriculum or help or have any questions, please contact me so we can kind of start forming a network and a community of people and ideas. And I also have a lot of other curriculum, some that goes along with this and a lot that doesn't, but that also teaches the work to kids in kind of fun and interesting ways, some for younger kids and also some for older kids. So thanks.